So TerraGT originally was going to be a 2D drifting racing game. So the original idea would be that you will go around this little town with like little drawings, like a Super Nintendo game, and you will go and buy the parts of your car and build it on the spot, and you will have a time limit. So you have 5 minutes to build your car, and then after those 5 minutes you will immediately transport it to the racing part. And the racing part, you will have the car that you just built. It sounded really fun, and we really wanted to make this, but a lot of problems came into the equation. First, because the game is 2D. Obviously, artists will not put that much work into it. And so we immediately shifted to a 3D game. And then problems with physics and several stuff made it into a 3D game with like spaceships. In order to make the level design cohesive and everything, we decided to put it in tubes. So the pitch started to become spaceships racing in tubes. So that's the new idea for TerraGT, and it evolved into what is today this multiplayer, very fun combat game. So I hope you guys enjoy it.
So the original idea for the level design for TerraGT was to have the players flying through a circular track inside of tubes. The reason for the tubes was it was the best way we could think of to contain the players in the track because they were flying, and we wanted them to stay together. So based on this idea, I drew up a design for a circular track with small open areas that the players could go through that would give them a sense of awe. It was a way to try and draw in the artists. It would be a place for them to showcase some really good work. We'd have really good environmental assets that the players could see. And having the area open, coming from the tube, it would make them feel like they were going slower. So we put a lot of thought into this design. So I drew up the design for that, and then we got to work and built it in Unity, and then we started playing it, and there was a problem. When players came around the corners, because they were going so fast through these tubes, all of a sudden they had to hit the brakes and try to turn. Now, it was hard enough for them to stay in control just going straight, and turning just broke the immersion of the game. So after struggling with this and trying to make it work, I came up with this idea of having a drag race style track. So the players would start at the beginning, there would be no laps, they'd just start at the beginning, they'd race through one long level, and they'd just reach the end, and whoever got to the end first won, like a traditional race, right? And then we still had these open areas. It wasn't doing what we thought it would do. Players were looking around and they were exploring it, which is not what we wanted them to do. We wanted them to keep racing, right? So they were spending so much time looking around that we thought, well, we need to do something with these open areas to make them more exciting. So we decided to turn them into arenas. So now the players had a reason to be flying around the open areas and looking at everything, and they'd have to complete tasks within the arenas. So we have it set up where the players have to activate rings in order to move on to the next area. So that gave purpose to the open areas, and it allowed for the artist's work to be shown off at a better venue. So some of the challenges that we faced with the level design was player direction. Because we turned the open areas into the arenas, all of a sudden the players didn't know where they were supposed to go after they started going around the arena. So adding in the objectives for the players to do in the arenas helped with that a lot, because we could set them up so that the rings that the players had to go through could activate in order and lead the player to the next phase of the race. So another challenge we had was making difficulty progression in the level, and also preventing people from hanging out around the entrances of the arenas and just shooting people when they came through the tubes. So we decided to create multiple tubes that people could go through to get to the arenas. This also gave them some player choice along the way, and they could kind of strategize a little bit about how they were going to go through the race. And yeah, it worked out pretty good.
So, when I first joined this team, the producer walked up to me and gave me the best job ever. He walked up to me and said, "Go make weapons." And I was like, yes! And I walked to my computer, sat down, and looked up every concept art I could think of. And there you have it, 7 weapons. As we go later on to the course though, I had one of the best instructor walk up to me and was like, "Did you just make these weapons from scratch?" I was like, "Yes." And he just told me, "No, you need to look up weapons, you need to get a spreadsheet of them, and you need a spreadsheet of your weapons with all the information, such as damage, reload, and fire rate." So I did that, and I learned so much from that. Essentially, now I had weapons that my programmer can look at, and he's like, "Okay, I know how much these values do, such as how much damage it does, how fast it reloads, etc." As we go even later, I learned that most of the weapons had to be cut because we were in a very short time constraint. So, as you can imagine, I was pretty heartbroken. So, I was pretty sad. But, because we had amazing artists, they finished really fast. So, when we got to our final quarter, as we call it, they pretty much had nothing to do. So, our producer came up and was like, "So, what are your artists gonna do?" And they said, "Well, we can make more ships." And I was like, "Hey, maybe I can balance that instead." I looked at those ships and I was like, "This is heavy, this is medium, this is light." And I balanced them accordingly, such as heavy ships have more health, are slower in acceleration, and have a worse turn rate, but they do more damage and they live longer. Medium being, or the light being faster but much more fragile, and medium being a balance of the two. So that's essentially what I did for the rest of the time. Then we got to my worst nightmare: playtesting. God, I hate playtesting. It's essential, but trying to get people to come and playtest your games was one of the most difficult things I had ever experienced.
So, wait. So, you're telling me you guys didn't get playtesters at all?
No, we had playtesters, just not as many as we hoped. But from the ones that we did get, we had amazing feedback. We had consistent feedback that stated stuff like the combat didn't feel good, or there wasn't enough direction during flight. And I'm really thankful for the playtesters for actually helping us, do this. So, yay, playtesters!
So, why local multiplayer? So there are several reasons, right? I think the main reason would be the lack of programmers.
That was a big reason.
That's a big reason.
But more importantly than that, we wanted the feel that you get when you play Mario Kart, being in the room with someone you're playing with. That sort of competitiveness, the fun atmosphere, and you react off of other people's reactions too. Like, it's fun. It's more fun. It just is.
It just is. Always local multiplayer is gonna be more fun. You have direct feedback from what happens around you with other people, right? And we have to say that Mario Kart was a great inspiration for us. It was always referenced, and that's why we wanted to do local multiplayer. It was the right step for us, and it was the right scope for us, and I think it just worked out great.
We had a lot of layout schemes for this. Before we had, I believe, this was a missile or a different kind of weapon as well.
Yeah, at the beginning, this B button, if you're able to see, this B button was our weapons, and we used to accelerate with the triggers here, right? But things got complicated with how Windows and Unity, they are just like water and oil, you know, with this kind of thing. They just don't mix very well. So we had to change our scheme, our control layout constantly. So how those weapons work now, Rodney?
Mostly just the bumper. So we kind of went with a semi Mario Kart role, where instead of the weapons just being like the trigger, we have it as the bumper, and acceleration is still A, mostly like you get from a Mario game.
Yep. So you control your ship with the stick, just like this, and you accelerate with A. So it's pretty simple. It's a pretty simple control. So with the right bumper here, you shoot your normal weapon, like a machine gun. Yeah. So you are in this awesome spaceship, and you're like ta 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 ta, just shooting, right, and hoping to kill everything. For that, when you guys try the game, you will be able to see a red reticle, right? Yeah. There's a red reticle in the middle, and as you get closer to other players, you get the blue reticle.
Yeah.
You guys can shoot each other to your heart content in awesome spaceships, in really cool environments. Honestly, what else can you ask for?
Pew,
right?
Pew pew.
Pew pew.
More pew pew.
There's a lot of pew pew in this.
I was a mediator between areas of the groups, the artists, the programmers, and the designers, that connect the information between them and set a hierarchy between people and who they can talk to. Another challenge that I had was to scope the project, because at the start we had a very ambitious scope, and would be very hard to do at the time constraints that we had. So our game was just constantly changing, and we were constantly cutting stuff from the game because of the scope. So I had to set a prioritization for a lot of things, and learn how to choose what to cut and what not to cut in the game, and what's more important to get done earlier, and what's important but can get into the game later. So an example of when it happened was our programmer had a lot of different ideas, a lot of crazy ideas, and he used to bring me a lot of that. And what I had to do was say no most of the times, because it wasn't something that had to be in the game. It wasn't something extremely important. So I had to prioritize on what should be in the game and what should be not, and most of this shouldn't be. So I had to cut it off.
It was hilarious because after Andre would say no, Santiago would come to me, and he was so passionate about it, and I'd be like, I could hear Andre in the background, say no, say no. So it was interesting because it was the other way around. Our programmer wanted to put all these crazy things in the game, and we had to tell him, no, Santiago, you are just one person, you can't do everything. Yeah.
Biggest thing that was learned during this process probably was communication in a team. Without communication, things tend to fall apart like really quickly because you don't know what's going on.
I learned the pipeline. I learned to work as a team. It's like my first experience as a modeler in a work environment. So I learned how we need to communicate with each other, and the schedules and all the stuff.
Yeah, the teamwork was a big thing. We had a really rough start. Like a lot of people had a bunch of different views when we started off. And when we got to the desk and we did out, it was learning the pipeline and figuring out where the information mostly had to flow to and from, and then where to align everything to commit it.